Jay begins our team coverage with the very latest on what we know. Sharon.
Tony and Adrian, certainly a sad day for the law enforcement community here. As we just heard, Sheriff Scott Jones announced that, yes, one of their deputies did pass away today. His name was Robert French, a 21-year veteran with the department. He leaves behind his girlfriend, adult children, and we still have 2 CHP officers at the hospital this hour. We're told that their condition is stable right now, but this is still a very active scene. We have multiple agencies here. The Ramada Inn, where this all started, it has a perimeter around it with possible suspects still inside. Just after 10 this morning, investigators say they spotted 2 women getting into stolen vehicles in the parking lot of the Ramada Inn off Auburn Boulevard and Fulton Avenue. They led officers on a chase on I-5 to Elk Grove and were eventually taken into custody. Officers then went back to the Ramada Inn where the female suspects were staying. And while they were attempting a door knock, shots were fired from inside the motel room. A suspect opened fire through the door, striking 2 CHP officers. Within seconds, the suspect then went to the back balcony with a high-powered rifle and exchanged gunfire with deputies who were monitoring on the ground. One Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy was hit. The suspect then jumped off the balcony into a car and a chase ensued down Auburn Boulevard, and the suspect's car crashed at El Camino and Eastern. More shots were fired and the suspect was taken into custody. At this hour, officers have a perimeter around the Ramada Inn with possibly 2 suspects inside.
Whether they got handguns or more high-powered rifles, those go a long distance and go through many things. So the concern is for the public around. So that's why the freeway is shut down in certain areas.
A very high law enforcement presence. Fulton Avenue is closed from I-80 to El Camino. And it's unclear exactly how long those roads will be closed. But again, very much of an active scene right now. Multiple agencies have set up here. The Ramada Inn, there's a perimeter around it, but the hotel has not been evacuated. They're waiting until everything is safe. They have not made contact with those suspects, but they're trying to do so at this moment. So we're going to be on scene here, getting developments and updates every hour.
One quick note also about Deputy French, Sharon. We understand that he was referred to as kind of the go-to guy, used as a training officer and worked a lot with the younger officers.
Yeah, absolutely. A very hard time for Sheriff Scott Jones as he was talking about this deputy, someone who was very active in the community, someone who's, again, a 21-year veteran of this department. So this is a very, very tough day. We saw even some emotion from a lot of the officers that we were speaking to today. They said they have to put their emotions aside, however, because they have a long night ahead.
They certainly do. Sheriff Scott Jones saying this is painful, but we will get through this. All right, Sharon Roget reporting live for us. Thanks so much for that update. There were a number of people who witnessed this walking lot.
We have team coverage for you in tonight's shooting, and we begin tonight with CBS 13's Sharon Roget. Sheriff Scott Jones, within the past hour, broke the news that Deputy Robert French died in the shootout, and Sharon has much more on that.
Sam and Adrian, a sad day for the law enforcement community here. Yes, Robert French was a 21-year veteran of the department. He was 52 years old. He's survived by his girlfriend and adult children. Now, this is a very active scene going on right now at the Ramada Inn Hotel where this all started. The CHP officers that were struck are said to be in stable condition. But again, a lot of law enforcement agencies out here right now. Just after 10 this morning, investigators with the county's auto theft task force say they spotted 2 women getting into stolen vehicles in the parking lot of the Ramada Inn off Auburn Boulevard and Fulton Avenue in North Sacramento County. The 2 women on parole led officers on a chase on I-5 to Elk Grove and were eventually taken into custody. Officers then went back to the Ramada Inn where the female suspects were staying, and while they were attempting a door knock, shots were fired from inside the motel room. A suspect opened fire through the door, striking 2 CHP officers. Within seconds, the suspect then went to the back balcony with a high-powered rifle and exchanged gunfire with deputies who were monitoring from the ground. One Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy was hit and died on the way to the hospital. The suspect then jumped off the balcony into a car and a chase ensued down Auburn Boulevard, and the suspect's car crashed at El Camino and Eastern. More shots were fired and the suspect was taken into custody. At this hour, officers have a perimeter around the Ramada Inn with possibly 2 more suspects inside. Meanwhile, Sheriff Scott Jones spoke about the deputy they lost today.
You know, this is certainly the most difficult thing any department can go through. And it's not just our department. I mean, we lost a deputy sheriff, but the entire community and all agencies lost a brother officer. And that's just something you don't come back from.
A very high law enforcement presence at the hour. For safety concerns, Fulton Avenue is closed between I-80 to El Camino Avenue. Auburn Boulevard is also shut down between Bell Street and Watt Avenue. And those roads will be closed for some time. Again, 3 suspects have been taken into custody so far, and possibly more suspects inside that hotel. They have not evacuated that hotel just yet until it is completely safe to do so.
One of the gaping holes in this story so far today, Shirin, is who are these suspects? What were they doing in that hotel? Were they a focus of the investigation? Are you hearing anything from law enforcement about the suspects themselves?
Well, what we know about the 2 female suspects that were taken into custody is that they were on probation. Their identities have not been released. The male suspect, the other suspects that are inside that hotel, we don't even know if they're from this area yet. They're still trying to determine that. No real information has come out here, but and there can be more to this. This could be part of a bigger kind of a stolen vehicle scheme. We've asked them about that because it started with a stolen vehicle being involved here. But Sam, still a very fluid situation. I'm sure we're going to get more information by this evening.
Yeah, a lot of gaps yet.
Much more to come.
Okay, Shirin, thank you very much for that.
Now let's check in with CBS 13's Lamore Abrams, who continues our team coverage. It's a lot to cover here on this breaking news. Let's check in with Shirin Raje. She was listening in to this news conference. Shirin, anything else we've learned at this point about this ongoing investigation?
Well, Adrian and Sam, a major update, as you just heard from the Sacramento Sheriff's Department. We're seeing tactical units coming to the command center here from the Ramada Inn. This was a very methodical process they were going through because they cared for the safety of the residents around that area and at that hotel as they were trying to isolate that hotel room where they thought more suspects were. But at this hour, no more suspects, and they're trying to clear out that scene. But that Ramada Inn is where all this started earlier today. 52-year-old Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Robert French was a 21-year veteran of the department who was killed today in the line of duty. French was shot by a suspect inside this Ramada Inn off Auburn Boulevard and Fulton Avenue just after 12. But this incident started earlier this morning after investigators with the county's auto theft task force spotted 2 women getting into stolen vehicles in the parking lot of the Ramada Inn. The 2 women on probation led officers on a chase on I-5 to Elk Grove and were eventually taken into custody. Officers then went back to the Ramada Inn where the female suspects were staying. And while they were attempting a probation door knock, shots were fired from inside the hotel room. A suspect opened fire through the door, striking 2 CHP officers. Within seconds, the suspect then went to the back balcony with a high-powered rifle and exchanged gunfire with deputies who were monitoring on the ground. That's when Deputy French was hit. He died on the way to the hospital. The suspect then jumped off the balcony into a car, and a chase ensued down Auburn Boulevard, and the suspect's car crashed at El Camino and Eastern. More shots were fired, and the suspect was taken into custody. Sheriff Scott Jones spoke about the deputy they lost. Take a listen.
You know, this is certainly the most difficult thing any department can go through. And it's not just our department. I mean, we lost a deputy sheriff, but the entire community and all agencies lost a brother officer. And that's just something you don't come back from.
And for safety concerns at this hour, Fulton Avenue is closed between I-80 to El Camino Avenue, and Auburn Boulevard is shut down between Bell Street and Watt Avenue. And those roads will be closed off for the rest of the night. And this is an investigation that can go for a few days. So this area is going to be part of a multi-day investigation. Again, 3 people in custody. The 2 CHP officers, again, were rushed to the hospital. I'm told they're in stable condition. If there are more suspects, that is yet to be determined.
Shirin, we do not know the name of the one suspect who's in custody who was accused of firing the shots yet. We don't know his name at all. We don't know much about him. Are you getting any word from law enforcement out there when we're going to know more about this guy?
You know, we're pressing them to see if we can get some more information. We don't, but we do know that they found a high-powered rifle and high-capacity magazines in his car. So we're trying to dig up more information about who he is and whether he is a local.
We will stay on top of this story throughout the evening. All right, Shirin Raje, thanks so much. Now let's turn our attention to Lamore Abrams, who continues our team coverage tonight with reaction from